deaths recorded in the Upper West region, bringing death toll to 16. We've got all the details.
Also, the government says it has detected massive rot at the Electricity Company of Ghana, resulting in a ban on all procurement by the minister. We'll tell you more.
And much later, on our special feature series, we ask what's happening to our MPs as they return to the news for all the wrong reasons. Well, there you are. It's good to see you here on a Monday morning. This is News Central, and I'm Kemini Amano.
And I am Mawina Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now. Two more lives have been lost to the meningitis outbreak in the Upper West region, increasing the total number of deaths to 16. Since the disease outbreak in the region, there have been 129 suspected cases with 22 confirmed. Currently, 29 persons are on admission, with 3 of them in critical condition. Let's take you there right now. Speak to my colleague Ibrahim Wangara, who's joining us live with a bit more details with regards to the meningitis outbreak. Ibrahim, it's almost 3 weeks since this seasonal disease outbreak started in the region. What has been happening? The healthcare workers, I believe, must be overwhelmed.
Definitely. The past 3 weeks have been very extremely challenging since the meningitis situation or meningitis raised its ugly head in this part of their country. And health workers are indeed overwhelmed with the situation, and they are working tirelessly to manage the influx of patients. Despite their efforts, the number of cases keeps surging, as you rightly put it, with the region recording over 120 cases of suspected cases of this deadly disease. So that has been how the region is within these past 3 weeks.
Ibrahim, talk to us about how residents are responding to the interventions to curtail the spread of the disease. We know there's been education amongst many others, which is ongoing in the region, but how are they responding to all of these?
Well, residents have been receptive in terms of the interventions put in place by both authorities and then the health workers. And they are saying that they are gratitude to the health workers and how far they have been able to manage the situation despite the fatalities recorded in the region. They are of the view that if health workers were not on top of issues, things would have been escalated. But they also demanded that they should be up in doing and to ensure that the sensitization and education goes down to the rural communities, particularly where health facilities or people will have to trek long distances to seek health care. So they want duty bearers to ensure that the education is done in languages that they even understand, and even the procedures one will have to adhere to or to seek medical care should also be well and clearly and consistently communicated to them.
Lastly, I want to find out a bit more from you with regards exactly what authorities are doing within the communities in terms of sensitization. We know that there's been a declaration for free health care for them, but in terms of sensitization, what more do we know is being done?
Well, at the moment, we see health officials moving to various local radio stations within the region to talk to residents on what meningitis is, what they should look out for, and what to do should any resident or anybody within a family is experiencing any of their symptoms. We have also seen flowers and brochures being shared among people with health workers also moving to engage with stakeholders like the overlord and the traditional authorities, just to keep them informed and then to also solicit for their support, so that at the end of it all, they will be able to contain the situation. But we also understand, according to the regional minister, that he is working closely with the health authorities to ensure jingles are recorded in the local dialect, so that it would be played at various vantage points, including mosques and church places, so that all gatherings or people within the area will know exactly what meningitis is and how they should respond to any situation in case one is experiencing any of their symptoms.
Right, Ibrahim, thank you for those details. That's my colleague Ibrahim Wangara providing details there for us. We know, meanwhile, that the Regional Health Director, Dr. Damien Punguyiri, has been explaining the circumstances surrounding the latest deaths as recorded.
Reported more cases, but we did not report any further death until 2 days ago. But what happened 2 days ago was that we had a young person who reported at the health facility with symptoms of malaria, truly diagnosed as a case of malaria, and has been put on treatment just like done for malaria cases. 2 days later, they rushed back to the hospital in an unconscious state. Much as we did, the health workers did their best to revive the person, lost a life within 2 hours on admission. The other one was found in a room unconscious by relatives and brought to one of the health facilities. Treatment began, and unfortunately we lost the person. I am narrating the stories to highlight how atypical this particular germ behaves. We have always said that they will present with headache, neck stiffness, fever. But there are instances where these typical presentations do not occur.
Well, still on meningitis, an MP for Garu, Dr. Thomas Anaba, is advocating the inclusion of meningitis in Ghana's vaccine manufacturing to prevent the disease from escalating in the future. Now, speaking to TV3, he urged government commitment into developing medication that controls the spread of the deadly disease.
Recommend, like other people are saying, we recommend that we do a proper study about this and actually push to the development of the vaccine center, a vaccine manufacturing center. I know very well the previous government spent $25 million to enhance the capacity of local pharmaceutical companies in the production of vaccines for tuberculosis, COVID-19, and then the rest. I think we should now roll in meningitis and study it carefully like the Americans have studied the different types of flus, so that anytime we have a new breed of meningitis bacteria, we're able to manufacture a vaccine very quickly to meet it, because it's becoming an annual event. Since 2020, since the COVID time, remember, there were a lot of mortalities in WA at the same time with the COVID. And up till now, every year, we're getting a lot of mortalities from meningitis. Let's ensure that our encourage government, and I know they are listening, and I know the vaccine center, government is planning to boost it to get local pharmaceutical company to produce it. Let's add meningitis vaccines to it so that the study can be done and they can produce it. In that way, once we know the Harmattan season is coming, the hazy weather is coming, we vaccinate the people. And in that manner, we don't get the severe forms of meningitis in the country.
That's Dr. Thomas Anaba. Well, there's news just coming through right now in relation to the special prosecutor and its hand for former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The news is that they are soliciting support and asking the general public to provide any detail or information with regards the whereabouts of the former Finance Minister. And that's what's on your screen right now. A wanted notice for Ken Ofori-Atta, listing, amongst many other things, details of his date of birth, his age, gender, even to the color of his eye and hair, and asking that anybody with general information with wherever he is, provide that to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And there on your screen is you see the reasons why they say he's a wanted man, that he's to answer charges in respect of several cases, including strategic mobilization, GRA contracts, what you know as SML, termination of ECG, BXC contracts, the National Cathedral payments, ambulance procurement contracts, and tax refund account utilization. And there, that last bit, anyone with information on the whereabouts of Ms. Ofori-Atta should alert the office by calling or sending a WhatsApp message to the numbers as displayed on your screen. And that, in your view, is further escalation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor in the hunt for the former Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta.
Well, more on that breaking news on 3news.com. Now, about 300,000 people expected to be vaccinated by the close of today for cholera. The exercise will take place in the Greater Accra region. I'll bring you the story a little later. Right now, let's turn attention to the court, where we know that the General Overseer and founder of Alive Chapel International, Bishop Salifu Amuakon, has been rearrested shortly after prosecutors withdrew the case filed against him regarding his son's accident, which resulted in 2 deaths. Let's get details from our court correspondent, Lord Edu Asare. Lord, what else do we know about this issue? What informed this decision?
Right, Kemni, so earlier today when the case was called, the state attorney handling the matter indicated that upon the advice of the Attorney General, they had been told to let the police continue with the investigation into the matter, and so they were advised to, as it were, drop the charges for the police to continue, and that was why Justice Bright Aqua discharged Prophet Salifu Amuakon, his wife, and then the domestic worker, Linda Bempe. Now, when the hearing was done, as they were exiting, still consulting with their lawyers, we observed that they were escorted into a waiting police vehicle and then taken out of the premises. Now, early on, and this was as far back as December, I had some interaction with his lawyers, the prosecution, and they were indicating that they were going to file new charges against Prophet Salifu Amuakon and then the 2 others. And so we believe that this is why the case has been dropped and then he was rearrested.
Let's talk about these new charges. Are they any different from what were dropped earlier?
Well, as it stands now, the charges haven't yet been filed. After they are being arrested, they will most likely be given the police return bail, and then upon further investigation by the police, we will know what these new charges are, and then we'll see how the case will proceed from then onwards.
What are the original charges? Well, more like the initial charges he was facing.
Well, so Salifu Amuakon, his wife Mura, and then Linda had been charged with permitting an unlicensed person to drive, and this was in reference to their underage son, who you recall in October last year used his mother's vehicle, crashed into another vehicle, burst into flames, leading to the loss of 2 12-year-old girls who, as we speak, they have been buried, and then he himself has been sentenced, and he's serving his sentence at the Senior Correctional Center. And so these are the charges that were proffered against his parents in connection to this incident.
I see. And so when, prosecution has decided to drop these charges, was the intention to amend the charges or what? I didn't get that clearly.
So as it says now, the preliminary or initial charges have been dropped. Now, pending the investigations by the police, they will proffer new charges. We do not know more, any further details on the new charges because, as far as we can tell, the police are still investigating the matter, and it's the reason why, as we speak, they are in police custody to further aid the investigation, after which we will know what new charges will be proffered against them.
I see. Sounds very complicated because it's got me asking what then will be the probable cause for the rearrest of the General Overseer of Life Chapel. But away from that, we also know that Oliver Baka-Voma will return to court today on those treason charges. Talk to us about how that went down.
Well, his case was quite brief. Now, when the case was called, he himself was absent, or he came late, I should say. So when the case was called, today we're expecting that a new jury will be put together to hear the case. But when the case was called, shortly afterwards, the presiding judge, Mary Keyanzu, adjourned it to March 17th for the prosecution, or for the courts to put together the jury to hear the case. Now, upon further probe, we spoke to some of the lawyers. They indicated that as it stands now, the court hasn't been able to put together the jurors in the case, and that was why the case had to be adjourned for the court to further put the jurors together in the case.
I see. We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Lord Idwasare is our court correspondent, bringing us the very latest from court. We'll now turn attention to energy. Ghana's power sector has in the last few months experienced various challenges, threats by independent power producers to shut down over debts and inefficiencies also around the corner as far as collections are concerned, and calls for increased tariffs. Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, has been speaking to me on what his initial assessment of the sector has revealed. If you missed that interview on hot issues, here's a quick take.
We have about 3,000 containers stuck at the port, generating demurrage of about 1.5 billion. That is unacceptable. Some of the things they've procured will last them 10 years. Some would even expire in 5 years. And so we've commissioned a committee to investigate ECG's procurements and the cause of these containers stuck at the port. And the committee is doing a very good job. So far, the preliminary report I've gotten indicates that there's massive rot at ECG. They do not follow procurement guidelines. They do not follow procurement processes. They do not conduct a needs analysis, and they just engage in brazen procurement. And so we're waiting for that report. But beyond that, there will be another technical report. What the PwC has done is a financial audit. We want to do a human audit, human resource audit, and a deeper audit of all the energy sector SOEs, which then gives us the clear picture and view as to the inefficiencies, so that we can tailor that in terms of our policy objectives and policy directive to address this. But in the interim, I've issued a very strong memo to ECG, directing them to pay all collections into a dedicated account. And this month, I intend to monitor that.
And this dedicated account is separate from what already exists?
There's an account that they hold, and we are of the view that it should be a national bank account where all the monies will be deposited. And then the cash waterfall mechanism will then apportion that. ECG must learn to live within its means. They came and tried to justify why they would want to withhold that money, but I've overruled that as minister. And the policy is that all these monies ought to be accounted for in a dedicated account. And even all those doing the initial deductions, they must stop that.
How many initial deductions do we have?
In fact, from the back of the envelope, it sums up to about 250 million cedis. That's a whopping amount. We would not allow that. Let me make that clear. As minister, I will not allow that. And whatever it takes to break that chain, I'll break it.
Well, the minister also says a ban has been placed on ECG procurements until further notice.
There's a rush to engage in procurement. And so I've put a hold on all procurements now. And I've asked them that if they want to do essential procurement, they should write to the ministry until the board is reconstituted. And when the board is reconstituted, we shall provide them with policy guidelines on procurement, so that we ensure that they follow strict adherence. Because I asked myself, if this company were yours or it was yours, would you engage in this level of procurement? You go to their warehouse, a lot of the equipment are at the mercy of the weather. I just checked from the port, and the security report I'm getting is that a container that costs about $500,000 is imported. ECG is unable to clear that container. some way, somehow, somebody is able to buy that container at auction for 100,000 cedis, bring it into the open market, and resell it to ECG as $300,000. It will stop. And I mean, it will stop.
Let's talk tariffs now, because the minister says government is under pressure to increase tariffs. Listen.
And the World Bank projects that we should be increasing tariffs by about 58%. I mean, how you're going to increase tariffs by 58% is another major thing. And inefficiencies at ECG. The collection, the losses, and all those issues ought to be addressed.
Are you currently facing that pressure to increase electricity tariff?
When they did the analysis, it showed that there was a huge differential.
Okay.
One, we don't pay for what you would call capacity charges or redundancy. It's not part of the tariff. And so right from day one, the state has to shoulder that bill. But even what we consume is woefully inadequate when you look at the billing or the approved tariff as against the cost of electricity. So if you do a one-on-one on a parity basis, there's a major differential. But more importantly, it's not just about increasing the tariffs. If you increase the tariffs and you still go with a leaking basket, I mean, you're going to have a major problem.
Right.
So we must fix the inefficiencies, increase the revenue base, reduce the losses, and then that can help us make some progress. But from what we are seeing, if we don't do anything, by the end of the year, the system will collapse. Already, Power has sent a letter that they intend to discontinue the supply of electricity because we owe them $370 million US. WAPCO and NGAS have also sent us a memo. The minister followed up and came personally to threaten that in March they would cut the supply of gas. ENI is also threatening. Jubilee says that right from November in 2023, not 2024, so over 1 year, they haven't been paid anything. So the challenges are quite enormous, and we are facing serious headwinds that we ought to address and take some drastic decisions. It's a difficult one, but we'll do it.
I mean, is it likely that the ECG will be proposing, an upward adjustment of tariff anytime soon?
They've already proposed that.
They have already proposed
ESRP, which is the Energy Sector Recovery Program, based on the model, shows that there's a shortfall of about the requirement of about 58% thereabout in order to meet that gap. But as a government, we also have a social contract with the people of Ghana. It cannot just be about piling taxes. We also want to see how we can deal with some of these issues.
That's the Energy Minister, John Jinapor, Dr. John Jinapor. Let's speak to Hatcher Derek. He's a policy analyst with the IES right now for a bit more with respect to what we've been hearing from the Energy Minister and what appears to be big challenges within the energy sector. Derek, thank you very much for speaking to us. You've heard the Minister outline in detail, in particular, the challenges that continue to bedevil the electricity company of Ghana. Surprising to you, considering that you've been monitoring the space for quite a while?
All right, thanks for the opportunity. Good afternoon once again. And so basically, this is like a new management who want to act more responsible, who want to exhibit good leadership traits. And because as a sector minister, you must have oversight responsibilities of these various agencies under you. And ECG is one of those key agencies. And so looking at the role of ECG, looking at their issues with financial technical issues, there is a need for you to have a minister that will exhibit that oversight responsibility. And it is good that we have a minister who wants to take the who by the corn. And now ECG needs to be investigated fully. What he has just uncovered is like an organized crime that needs to be investigated fully, and that those who are involved must be held accountable and prosecuted as such. And the money must be retrieved, because how will you invest an amount of money of $500,000 and then you actually got 100,000 Ghana cedis, which is just equivalent to about $6,000, but you manage to repay or rebuy the thing at $300,000, which is equivalent to 50 times of the amount of the auction price. And so why would you do this? This is like an organized thing. And so the private individual, the ECG management and co-officials that are involved must be investigated, whether by Yoko, whether by the Attorney General, whether by the Office of Special Prosecutor, or there must be a public account hearing committee to investigate this. And this will serve as a deterrent to other people that might have similar intent.
Outside of this one issue of the auction sales and ECG subsequently buying, is that issue of procurement and the fact that they have 10 years worth of supply for equipment at their warehouses at the mercy of the weather. How big of a challenge do we really have on our hands when we talk ECG, revenue collection, procurement, and the likes? Because it does appear that from even the initial briefings that the minister has received, we could be having a much bigger challenge on our hands, considering all of the other sector players are every now and then threatening to cut power supply because we're not able to pay them.
Exactly so. So the whole issues with the energy sector or the power sector got to do with ECG. And I spoke about an oversight responsibility of a minister. And so what you need to now understand is that probably we've had ministers in place that have just been sitting on the job. They've not been acting right. They just, because of political interference and because of the political questions and those who are the helm of affairs think they are not accountable to anybody. And so you should now see a new management in place where the initial briefings are even bringing exposés that are far beyond reaching targets. And so definitely, let's hope that there will be more investigations, or let's say more exposés that will be brought out. But even as when this investigation comes out, there must be full investigation and prosecution. Because other than that, other people will be motivated to do. But now I have a hope that the rot and the technical incompetences, the financial and the mismanagement or the mispresentations will not be a thing of the past. Because how can an organization as ECG have revenue losses or technical losses close to 40%, and then your revenue mobilization is far below 50%? How do you expect to survive and pay those in the value chain? And then now Ghanaians will continue to be complaining that their power cuts, and then all the other sector players that the IPPs will now be coming to your doorstep. Can you pay us? Can you pay us? No. There must be somebody who to show responsibility and responsible leadership. Ethical leadership is what we are looking out for.
You've mentioned prosecutions. The minister, amongst many other things, says he wants to monitor ECG for the next 1 month with respect to revenue collection and the use of one account. What more would you expect from him outside of what you said about prosecution of these individuals going forward needs to be done? He's mentioned privatization that we know and says that should be done within the year.
Yeah, so for the initial part of it, it's good for him to have broader stakeholder engagement, and so all the policy alternatives that he has outlined are based on his interactions with stakeholders. And so privatization cannot be taken out if you have a private participation in the energy sector or the power sector of ECG. Definitely, to also limit the political interferences. A private participant will invest their capital and expect that things are managed efficiently. And so when it comes to revenue mobilization, instead of having revenue like income mobilized of almost 50%, you'll be able to improve that. Because when that increases, then definitely you'll be able to pay those in the value chain and comply with the cash waterfall mechanism. Now we're talking about the technical and commercial losses. Right. It is too huge. How can you operate at almost 40%? And so these are things that the sector minister is also having engagement with. And I know that with the broader stakeholder engagement, there will be a better policy alternative for the efficient management of ECG.
Hacha, thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Hacha Derek. He's a research analyst with the Institute of Energy Security, speaking to us this afternoon on revelations as to the rot at the Electricity Company of Ghana.
Now, President John Dramani Mahama says his administration is yet to hold discussions on the possibility of extending Ghana's current $3 billion extended credit facility with the IMF. Officials of the IMF last week met the new finance minister as discussions have commenced on ensuring compliance with the IMF agreement. Speaking in an interview with Bloomberg on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, President Mahama said, while future extensions remain an option, our government is presently committed to adhering to the existing program.
Happily, we have just had a staff visit, and so our Ministry of Finance is engaging with the IMF There were few issues. We were not at the table when this agreement was drawn up. And so coming into government, there are a few issues that we thought we should raise with the IMF, including the issue of tax rationalization. Because of the target of achieving 24% revenue to GDP by 2028, the program required that revenue should continue increasing at a certain rate. Unfortunately, what the previous government had done was just to slap on more taxes. And we had gotten to a stage where the more taxes that were put on, the less revenue that came in. And so it's necessary for us to look at the whole tax handle, rationalize them, make them more transparent, easy to understand, so that we can have better compliance. We've had that discussion with the IMF, and the IMF have agreed to provide technical assistance for us to do that rationalization. We've not talked about an extension of the program. We are determined to continue with this program. I think that it means that we must be more prudent in our handling of our finances. We must also look on the expenditure side and see how we can cut waste and also shift resources to more priority programs. And so it's a whole basket that we're looking at. We also have the issue of the debt restructuring and the humps that have been created. This year, we have to pay in excess of 15 billion on the domestic debt exchange. So what we've done is to reactivate the sinking fund and put more resources into it to take care of the repayments that have to be made this year. But all in all, we have a cordial relation with the IMF. The next review, which will be the fourth review, is due in April. But before that, we'll present the budget in March. And so the budget will take into focus some of the issues that have come out from the staff mission. We're hoping to receive the aid memoir today or tomorrow. And looking at the issues that IMF raises, we'll incorporate them in the budget.
President John Dramani Mahama there. You're watching News Central live on TV3. Still to come. Begin to trickle in from the Ashanti region. We've got all the details there. Don't go away.
You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to
We're taking you to the Ashanti region, where one person has been arrested in ongoing efforts to rerun the Council of State elections for the Ashanti region. As you recall, on the day of voting last week, the exercise in the region was disrupted with all election materials almost destroyed. Well, the Electoral Commission changed the location for voting today, and as you can see, there was also an attempt again today to try and disrupt the election process, but the police were swift in picking up one individual who has been arrested. Ibrahim Abubakar is my colleague who's there for us. Let's try and get details from him with respect to exactly what it is that's been transpiring there. Ibrahim, we know one person has been arrested, but we also know that a lot of these delegates, per the details emerging from the ground, have been camped, and so voting is not just quite ended as expected.
Well, Mauna, you are right. Just a few minutes ago, we saw the remaining delegates in a bus coming. In fact, since morning, Ashanti region, 86 people are expected to vote. As at 12, 27 of them have voted, and we're waiting for the remaining 39. Just like I said, some few minutes ago, the remaining 39, all in a bus, got here together with their supporters, and some of them, even some of the supporters, wanting to get access into the inner perimeter, but the police says no. Now, what the police has done is that they have mounted, before you get to the Prempeh Assembly or even the premises, you have to go through 4 security or 4 barricades manned with officers, and they have to ensure that you are accredited before they will give you access, even within the premises of the Prempeh Assembly or before you enter into the building where the voting is ongoing. So with the exception of the media, even with the media, you need this accreditation. So with the exception of the media, the police, EC officials, delegates, and contestants, they are not, or candidates, they are not allowing anyone entry. In fact, the former Minister of Education, Dr. Yaw had to plead with them several times, but they still did not allow him access. So eventually, he had to leave. Kennedy Japan was also here for minutes. They did not allow him entry because they do not want a situation where they will allow these 2 individuals entry, and others without accreditation will also try and force themselves. You mentioned about the arrest. This is an individual who was trying to force himself in there and be able to access, but the police carried him, and as we speak, they sent him to the police station. So like you see, like I said, the remaining 39 are in there. So it means within some few minutes, they will be done with the voting, and the counting will begin. That's why you see the police who have come here. Others are also stationed at vantage point. We also even have the anti-robbery fully armed, just making sure that the process will not be disrupted by anything else.
Ibrahim, talk to me about this particular election. Why has it become so important? Increased police presence and the likes. What in particular is making this election also important in the Ashanti region?
Well, Marina, just as you are confused or want to know, a lot more people in our Ashanti region are also eager to know why. Because we've had several Council of State elections, yet you do not even hear anything. All that you hear is that this person is representing the region on the Council of State. This year has been different, largely because it has been 2 partisan, even though we know that this election shouldn't have been so. We have Nanan Kansa Bwedu, who is a Council of Elder for the New Patriotic Party, and also even a financier of the party contesting. Then we have a former regional chairman of the National Democratic Congress also participating, though 12 people are contesting, but the election is centered on these 2 individuals, and that is where all this issue is coming. The NDC is saying they do not want Nanan Kansa to represent and advise the president in any way, since he did not support the candidature of John Dramani Mahama. That's how come this has been very, very intense. As we speak, 4 individuals out of the 12 have stepped down, but the EC is saying they do not have any official document to that effect, and for that matter, they get votes, that vote will be counted.
Ibrahim, thank you. We'll look forward to the details of that election emerging shortly. As you mentioned, that the outstanding 39 have made their way to the venue for voting to take place. I was still going to stay on the Council of State elections this afternoon.
Indeed. We'll head up northeast, where it has emerged that Saska Abuba is the winner of the Regional Council of State elections there. The polls had to be organized after the initial election ended in a tie. Alhaji Abuba secured a total of 7 votes, surpassing his closest competitor, Asabige San Malunga, who received 5 votes. Northeast Deputy Director of the Electoral Commission, Yao Opoku, spoke to the press after the poll.
11 February 2025 was set for the conduct of regional representatives to the Council of State nationwide. Unfortunately for Northeast, we couldn't determine the winner. There was a tie. 2 candidates had the same votes, and therefore there was a need to break the tie. Commission subsequently fixed today, 17th February 2025, for the purpose of breaking the tie. The election started 7 a.m. as stipulated by law, and at the end of the elections, we were able to break the tie. So the candidate in respect of Saka Abuba had 7 votes, and then Asabigi San Malunga Nasamu had 5 votes. To that effect, Saka Abuba was declared the winner.
Away from that, Minister of State in charge of Special Initiative has begun an assessment to implement agro-product processing under the policy. A member of the assessment team and former MP for Ododo-Diodio, Neelante Vanderpoy, has assured the people of the Bunu region of the government's commitment to the 24-hour economy, which he believes will effectively address youth unemployment in the region, which is one of the country's food basket.
We are twice. This is my 3rd time. Many of you did not know. He is aware, but he is keeping it. I want to assure you that we are bringing something good to Bono region and to Brekum area, to be specific. We, through the office of the Minister for Special Initiative, Bokojo Ajekum, we've been able to get some good investors. We have come here. We've come to do analysis of your water. They want to go into food and beverages, add value to some of your farm produce like tomatoes and cashew. And as such, we've come here with them and we've done some studies. As I'm talking to you now, if you go to the Mekum.
And that's it for Regional Hub. It will take us as well on to our second break for this afternoon.
It's the battle of the teams in a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start is sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and Ugil Premier Fresh Natural Mineral Water, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your journey, your victory.
This is the show that brings finality to all the critical issues. It is the stage where all the facts are checked, issues thoroughly interrogated, opinions shaped, and debates settled. But over here, we do more than just talk. We resolve problems. We hold those in power accountable. We address all the key happenings in society, from politics to health to education to everything you deem important. And we will center the voice of the ordinary Ghanaian. This is the show that sets the agenda.
Agenda now shows on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
Welcome back. Now to a special feature for today. Ghana's parliament continues to attract attention for all the wrong reasons. If it's not near brawls among members of parliament, it is the use of unsavory language and words against one another, putting a dent in the image of parliament and the Ghanaian people. Evelyn Tingma in this report takes a look at the causes of the growing indiscipline and lawlessness in parliament.
About the increasing number of young and inexperienced MPs being elected to Ghana's parliament. While some acknowledge the potential of young lawmakers, others emphasize the importance of retaining experienced MPs to uphold the quality of parliamentary debate, governance and discipline. A cross-section of the public is worried that there is a breakdown of discipline in parliament which must be addressed. Over time, discipline has been a concern. Even leaders who are meant to serve as examples to the new MPs were seen raising tables and destroying state property, leaving much to be desired. Some say the lawlessness in the House is getting out of hand as MPs now use their microphones to speak during parliamentary or committee sittings without being recognized by the Speaker or the Chairman.
Honorable Nitiwul, you don't have the floor. Resume your seat. Please resume your seat.
The use of unsavory language is also common. So I ask, what could the problem be?
It has to do with the attitude. So that is what they have transported into Parliament. A lawmaker, instead of making laws and you are breaking laws, and if you are severely punished, I don't think it will continue. I think it's a disgrace and it shouldn't happen in our young democracy.
MP for Esutifi South, Collins Dauda, now the longest serving member of Parliament, also says it is an attitudinal problem.
We also need to have attitudinal change. If you are a member of Parliament, you must know that you have become different from what you were before becoming Parliament. Now, everybody watches you. And so you must conduct yourself in a way that is honorable.
While Professor Abdullahi calls for stiffer punishments to be incorporated into the country's laws and Parliament's standing orders to curb the situation, Collins Dauda advocates for more engagement and compromise.
If people know they are going to be punished for such behavior and severely punished, they are going to change with anger management. It should be a standing program that people take when they come to Parliament the first time. And the other one is emotional intelligence. I think it's very important if you are going to be in such a leadership position.
To have the caucuses respect one another and for the caucuses to engage before any decision is taken. Leadership on both sides can organize a workshop to educate members, but with the new ones, in order that this does not occur.
Former MP for Subin, Isaac Osei, says the recent happenings in Parliament reflect society.
What goes on in the wider society, and no comments at all from the authorities or those who are in charge of securing, our country. And it all started also recently with respect to the 8 or 9 constituencies which were in dispute, where people felt emboldened to go to these centers and disrupt proceedings. So what happened in Parliament, shocking as it may be, is really a reflection of what is happening in our country. Look, a lot of things happen, people get away with it.
He says the loud silence, usually by law enforcement agencies and government, is what emboldens people to act in such a manner.
The political parties, they have a key role to play in this. Where there are excesses in Parliament, they should be able to tell their members clearly and directly that this is not acceptable. The first time that happened, nothing really happened. And so it gave people the impression that they can do what they want.
Having lawmakers break the laws is obviously not good enough. But as some governance experts would argue, age is not the issue, but attitude. It therefore behoves on the Ghanaian voter to choose people who are well-mannered to represent them in Parliament in order to save their integrity, Parliament as a whole, and Ghana's democracy. Evelyn Tinkma, TV3 News, Parliament House.
I'm back here in the studios. The fight against illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey, and efforts to address climate change remain key priorities for the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. The Sector Minister, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, says tackling these issues require collaboration and decisive action.
The Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, says his ministry is leading the charge against illegal mining. He acknowledged the challenge, but emphasized that the ministry cannot win the fight alone.
Plans are far advanced to ensure that we stop this menace. I mean, it's a danger to our survival, and everybody in this country is concerned about it now. We're also conscious of the fact that we need to be looking at alternative livelihood for those who are engaged. And I saw a video where a gentleman said that he sold his cocoa farm for Galamsey and said he's been a cocoa farmer for decades. He couldn't even pay his children's school fees. I mean, there are many people like that. We need to also deepen education and sensitization and look at alternative sources of livelihood for such people. Agriculture activities are things that we can look at. I've had some discussions with some ambassadors and some international funding organizations to see how best they can assist us to be able to provide these alternative sources of livelihood for communities that are affected by Galamsey.
On climate change, the minister outlined measures his ministry is implementing to protect vulnerable communities from the harsh impacts. The minister also met with staff and management of the Environmental Protection Agency to discuss strategies for enforcing environmental regulations and ensuring compliance with climate policies. As the ministry strengthens partnerships to address these challenges, the focus remains on protecting the environment while ensuring sustainable development.
Well, now, security analysts have called for cooperation among Sahel regional governments against the growing threats of violent extremists. The call stems from revelations by U.S. Republican Congressman Scott Perry accusing the American government of funding activities of extremist groups through its international development wing, USAID.
The growing threat of violent extremist organizations in the Sahel threatens to worsen the humanitarian crisis and spread instability across Africa, posing significant security and financial risk to countries where extremist activities are rampant. Groups like Boko Haram in northeastern Nigeria, alongside the Islamic State in the West African province, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, Tuareg, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin, and others have been launching attacks on government forces and civilians. A recent revelation by American Congressman Scott Perry has raised concerns. In a viral social media video, the Republican congressman, during the inaugural session of Congress's subcommittee on delivering government efficiency, an advisory body created by the current American administration, accused USAID of funding terrorist activities under the Obama and Biden administrations, calling for an end to these practices.
Your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan, it is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. This has got to end.
Following this revelation, America has come under criticism, despite the fact that the congressman's accusations have neither been confirmed nor denied by the American government. Security consultant at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, Dr. Victor Doke, described the revelation as disturbing, adding the congressman's accusations is just an agenda.
For the U.S. statesman of lawmaker to state this, that he's trying to bring bear or support the claim, not a claim, but the decision made by the President Donald Trump to stop or seize aid, which comes through USAID for development. The USAID.
Security analyst Adib Sani called for an investigation into the allegations.
In an attempt to, as it were, stop USAID, I have personally seen a number of allegations leveled against the establishment. But for me, until an investigation is conducted and it is proven beyond reasonable doubt that they are funding terrorism, I see it as conspiracy theory.
For him, identifying, tracing and cutting off all funding sources for violent extremist groups is crucial for restoring peace in the sub-region.
One of the ways to deal with the terrorism menace is to stop their lifeline, which is funds. Okay? If they are not able to get the funding, they will not be able to buy the weapons, they will not be able to recruit, they will not be able to buy the logistics that they need in making improvised explosive devices, the motorbikes they need for transportation, the fuel, etc. Okay, so we are able to stop the funding. It is critical.
Stanley Niblew, TV3 News, Accra.
Anyway.
Looks like,
reports,
it looks like a lot more work needs to be done on the African front to deal with the conversations in relation to terror. But we'll see how it goes. I watched that video. It stoked a lot of debate on social media, particularly in Nigeria, where there have been conversations in recent times about the economy and all of that. But let's not get into
and the activities of USAID there as well. So I can understand why it would be great conversation in Nigeria.
Yeah, but time for us to get out. I am Mawe Naibeta.
I am Kemeni Amano. We'll see you same time tomorrow here on TV3. Next is the afternoon show. Bye-bye.